Hello and welcome to Top Fives, the show of everything. Top Fives, presented by the Sex Effects. I'm Joey Parati.
And I'm Sean Day.
And folks, as you might have guessed from our wonderful background, we're talking the Batman tonight. I'm not even going to bury the lead here. I'm very excited to talk about this with you, Shawnee. We have not spoken purposefully so that our first true debrief of this movie could be on air for you, our dear sweet lovely imaginary audience. But before we get to all of the vengeance, Jonathan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Deep into season 2 of Euphoria. That was another
Yes,
thing.
bitch.
Yes, that was another thing I did this past week. Hit it pretty heavy too. I think I started watching. What's today? Tuesday. I started watching like Wednesday of last week, and then kind of like scattered some of the episodes. There's only like 8 or 9 episodes in the first
Eight
season.
episodes, I think.
Yeah, so I kind of scattered a little bit the episodes, and it's a very mature show. So obviously I have my girlfriend and her son sometimes here. So, but
Is your
yeah,
girlfriend not allowed to watch it?
well when he's around, because pretty much all the material that's in the show. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm actually really excited
Who's your
to.
favorite character?
Fez for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely my favorite character. Although that season finale of the first season was pretty extreme. But he's the one I
I
most
can't
kind of
remember what it
like.
was now.
He's weirdly enough, he's like the most redeemable character I feel in the show
He's just a
because
good dude. He's
he's
just
a
a
good
solid
dude,
dude.
and he's trying to look out for Rue. So it's like, yeah, but yeah, thoroughly enjoying it.
Yes.
I'm on episode 3 of the second season, and it's already going
Oh
off.
man, it
So
gets so wild.
I cannot wait
It's
because you
so
told me the
good.
season like finale of the second, or is like one of the episodes is like probably one of your favorite episodes of, like television, or like it really.
Ooh, it ain't oh, fuck, the finale's real. I mean, season two has so many. When you finish it, we'll talk. It
Okay,
has so many
yeah,
great moments. But yeah, there's a couple episodes in season two. I mean, God, the first episode of season two was the first episode of Euphoria that I saw,
oh,
and
that's right. Okay,
that kind of opens with Fezco's backstory, right?
yeah.
And so I didn't know anything about the show. I didn't, other than like as Alicia has described it, teens having sex and doing drugs. And I'm like, okay, I don't know my
Yeah,
way into that show. But because the first scene that I saw of it was almost a Scorsese kind of type of flashback,
yeah,
to their town in the seven or whatever year, and the grandmother being the drug dealer and bringing Fez up into that. So he grew up in that life. He knows nothing else. Um, and by the time that first episode ended, I was like, we got to watch the whole thing.
yeah.
Um,
And I do
so
like
then I
that
binged it.
format.
Yeah.
I like that format where kind of each episode opens with like a backstory of the characters you've met, throughout the series. So, and it gives you a better understanding of like why they're like that, and kind of like their
Yeah.
upbringing and stuff. So, but yeah, thoroughly entertaining. I'm a huge fan of the music too. The music's pretty cool.
It's all
Um,
so well done. And it was shot, the second season at least, was shot on film. So it's a
oh,
real piece of craft. It's awesome.
yeah.
Andrew tweeted out that it felt like Ken Park, the TV show, and I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Anyone who knows what Ken Park is will
yeah, any Larry Clark fans in the imaginary audience there.
yeah.
I'm glad you're watching it. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's been on my list of shows, and I did watch I think I watched like the first 2 episodes of the first season when it came out, and I'm not saying I wasn't interested in it. It was just one of those shows where I just watched it, like watched the first 2, and then I kind of fell off and just kind of maybe I started watching another show or something, or whatever it was. But I'm glad that I have the second. I think the finale like finished or whatever, so I have like the second season like full fledged right in front of me. So I'm going to try
Nice.
to finish that this week. My parents are coming to town this weekend, and my grandma from England is in town. So using this
I can't wait
opportunity,
to see her. I'm
dude,
so
I know
excited.
I'm so excited, and it's gonna be really cool to hang out with them this weekend. But yeah, I'm not sure how much time I'll have this weekend to like watch it. So we'll see how it
Well, I
goes.
mean, it's all there. You can go as fast or as slow as you like. So
Yeah.
you know?
We'll have to see. I want to finish it because it's been recommended to me, and you were, I mean, for you, like praising the show and saying it's a interesting watch, I think is the whole
Because
thing.
I
So
don't praise much. Let's be honest
exactly,
here.
yeah. I
Uh,
take Joey's opinion to heart usually when it comes to those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, thoroughly enjoying it, dude. So I'm really
nice,
excited
man.
to finish it off. But that's kind of been like, I'm not saying that's my week, but like that's kind of the stuff I've been kind of watching and binding my
Yeah,
teeth
that better not be
into.
all you're doing.
No, yeah, it's been that, and the last thing I was gonna mention was on Saturday we had, because I live in North Hollywood now, and like, apparently my girlfriend's like, this happens probably every day, but the house across from me, I don't know what was happening, but there was cops like blocking our whole road, and it looked like a raid was gonna happen, and it was crazy, dude. So, and it was literally like we could just like pull our window open, and there's like a bunch of cops just chilling there, like posted. But they raided this house, but no one was in the house, so I'm not sure what happened there. And I was trying to follow up and like look and see what like on the if the news was having something, but nothing yet. But my theory is like a drug bust because they had like canine units and like all sorts of stuff.
So what would make it a drug bust and not just a drug bust?
I once they brought the canine units, I was like, okay, maybe it has something to do with drugs. And then it looked like a house that was like, aside from maybe like someone was like a run like a what do you call it, like a drive and run, and maybe they like parked there in front of this house. But it was like obvious that this car that was here, or these cars right here were part of the house. Like I think I don't think anyone was trying to hide out in the house. And then what was crazy is after they went through it took like 2 hours for them to like finally go into the house, which was kind of crazy. So we were like waiting there, just like, is anything gonna happen? But they had like lights on the house. They had like the guy announcing like, hey, dude, like, we're giving your last warning and all that kind of stuff. And it was crazy, dude. Helicopters, like everything. And then what happened is the house was empty, but they checked there was like three cars there was two cars in the garage and one in the driveway, and they checked all three cars, and then they took one car and drove away with it. So
The
I was like,
cops?
yeah. So I was like, oh, what's the story behind this? So yeah, it was kind of crazy. And then they were, obviously getting pedestrians out of the way. Like they could have had like a shootout, which I was like, telling my girlfriend, I was like, we gotta bounce out of here if some stuff starts happening.
No, you stay the fuck put and get under the goddamn bed.
Yeah.
Jesus
Well, I mean,
Christ. You don't
get
try
out
to
of
get
this
caught.
room where it's directly opposite this place. But it was still a little bit of excitement, I guess.
Yeah, man. I mean, I remember when a similar thing happened, not no helicopters from what I remember, but similar thing kind of happened when I lived on Green Street. And I was just kind of being an asshole because I lived right outside the front door to the apartment complex, and the cops are, banging, and I opened my door and went, "Was good," and they're like, "Open the fucking door." I was like, "You got it," like
Like, no.
as they're drawing their weapons. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty crazy, man. So I'm very curious to see what that was all about, but I couldn't find anything like on the internet or any news. I know the address and everything, but yeah. I
well,
mean,
you
who
should check out
knows?
Citizen.
Who knows? A Citizen. Yeah. Okay.
Have you heard of the Citizen app?
No. No.
I mean, it's kind of like Nextdoor, but I mean, or you open it up and you see a map of your neighborhood, and
And
it'll
all
tell
the.
you, oh, a fire or a carjacking or blah blah. It
Oh.
does. Yeah, it shows you everything that's going on.
Oh, crazy. Okay.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
damn. All right. Being be a little
So
vigilante there.
check
Check
out.
it
Yeah,
out.
man. Speaking of,
Yeah.
I'm sad that Batman did not show up and right whatever wrong was happening across the street from you. That is unfortunate about real
Unfortunate.
life, is
Yes.
that Batman does not exist. This movie doesn't seem to understand that concept, but that's okay. We're gonna get into it. Um, but yeah, man, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad all you guys are okay.
Yeah.
That's a
We're
fucking
good.
scary situation.
Yeah, we're good. And yeah, I am avoiding looking out my window every now and then because I'm like, I don't want anyone to come over here or suspect anything. So, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. Wow. Okay.
Okay. How about you, Joey?
Goddamn.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I on it like Lee's had friends get in Friday night at midnight. We picked them up from the airport. Her friends Eddie and Andrea, and so and then we later met their friend Zach. Um, but they were here for 2 nights, and so two really late nights. And then on Sunday went down to see my buddy Noah and our friend Joan. The three of us used to be coworkers, and they both have puppies now that are 4 months old. So Marty was the old man, just like being a prick, and all the other dogs are trying to play. But yeah, I've just been exhausted, man. I feel like I've been hit by a truck. Just it's
Late
a
nights,
lot
yeah.
of yeah. So I'm good. I had a great weekend, but yeah, I just down for the count a bit. And I was very lucky that I got to see the Batman Tuesday night,
Oh,
March
that's right.
1st,
Yeah,
at the
okay.
IMAX fan screening. Um, Second row from the fucking front. And we
Ooh,
got there an hour early and over an hour early because I was like,
why not?
we were the first fucking people in that theater. Um, God bless Lise for not getting like pissed. She was like, all right,
Yeah.
let's do a photo shoot of you at the Batman movie.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man. So that's how I saw it. IMAX first screening,
Okay.
second row from the front. I'm seeing it again tomorrow night to get a better feel for it. The way I think we should kind of handle this review and conversation is we'll do kind of a short, spoiler-free summation
Section.
of our thoughts and feelings, and then we'll dive deep on the more nitpicky shit,
Okay.
of which there is a plenty. Um, but yeah, Sean, what was your experience seeing the movie and initial thoughts?
So I saw it on Sunday, this past Sunday, in Burbank at AMC. They call it Town City, I think it's called. 7 or 8. It has a number. What's interesting is there's three Burbank AMC's, like all literally in the same area. AMC 16 is kind of the bigger one. A lot of people go to that one, but this one's kind of cool because it's kind of that like hidden gem of a theater. Like there's only like I think four like theaters inside the theater itself, and it's right across from this In-N-Out Burger in Burbank. So it's kind of weird. You could miss it if you pass it. Like it's not as obvious with the signs and everything. So I figured like, okay, if I'm gonna see this movie, it's probably it's filling up. I was checking tickets and like it's just bad seats everywhere. As far as like it filled up quite a lot this weekend. So I was like, maybe I'll try this theater. So we got kind of like mid, in the middle, kind of middle right seats. It wasn't IMAX, but I think the screens at that particular location were like big enough. I think it's I don't know what the standard is these days for like the standard
I don't
viewing
know either.
because it looks like big enough for me. But maybe I haven't been to the movies in a minute. So, but yeah, so that's how I saw it. Sunday, I saw it with my girlfriend and Maddie, and I was. I'm still trying to like decompress from it and kind of figure out if I liked it or not. I think the biggest thing that probably a lot of people are going to say is the runtime, which I did feel a little bit in the movie. However, I did like how it paced. I think like it didn't feel like super long, but at the same time, I think they could have trimmed a lot of the fat in this movie. Um, but I don't know. I think it hit kind of the expectations I had as far as like I was hoping to get kind of a detective Batman. It's a Batman year 2, so he's kind of trying to figure out what, is he kind of this going to be known for the vengeance, or if it's going to be, the vigilante hero that we all know of as Batman. Um, Initially, I liked it. I mean, it looked great. I mean, the cinematography and the way Matt Reeves was able to showcase the kind of Batman feel and kind of noir-esque kind of landscape of Gotham City was really cool. So I really like that part of it. The parts kind of my negatives to begin with was kind of maybe the length of it, and then the parts where I don't want to no spoilers, but there is a section of the movie where they kind of reveal some things that happen, and I was a little lost at first because I was like, wow, there's just so many like people we're accusing of here, and then they kind of drop the full story, like the full kind of reveal and story, which has something to do with uh, Bruce Wayne's parents and like how they're related to things that are going on in the city. So I thought that was kind of like, I don't know, and then yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was a good watch, but I think it was good. I think on my scale, it was just kind of a good movie. It didn't wow me. I mean, there were parts where it's like, dude, this looks awesome, and I think some of the shots, like we saw in the trailer, like the penguin car chase was super sick, and when the Batmobile kind of first appears, that was really cool. And then I like Robert Pattinson. I mean, I thought he did a good job, and the suit looks great on him. I liked the kind of, if it's Batman Year 2, that means he's got this kind of, he's still trying to figure out his, his look and everything, and how he's, I don't know. I like that part of it. It's tough to compare it's tough to not compare, because I really like the Nolan trilogy, and especially those first two films. But I don't know. I liked where they went with this one, and I'm actually excited to see what they do in the next one, and if they can kind of take what they, kind of the negatives and stuff that we kind of see, and hopefully kind of fix that stuff. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I think it was just kind of like good. It wasn't like a wow kind of like, because I just recently watched Batman Begins, and I'm trying not to compare, but that movie is just like, it's such a good,
It's
like,
tight.
it's a tight movie. It gets me excited about Batman and Bruce Wayne. It still introduces and wrestles with those themes of like the duality with Bruce Wayne and Batman, and like it really kind of brings that one home as far as like telling the audience like he's struggling between these his kind of personas and everything like that. So I don't know if I really got too much of that. There are some like themes, I guess, in the movie where it's kind of like he's the Batman in the shadows, vengeance, and then kind of as towards the end, he becomes kind of like the hero that the city recognizes and acknowledges. So, but yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I'm very curious about you, Joe, because you were
What would
looking
you give
forward
it
to
out
this
of
one.
5?
I'm gonna go 3 out of 5, because it was just like a average watch. Like I wasn't like sitting at the end of the credits and being like, wow, that was great. Like that was insane. Like that was, and then, yeah, there were times where I was like, where are they kind of going with this story, I think. And, where I wasn't really sure, like even that third act kind of took me by surprise a little bit, and how they were kind of moving it towards there. So yeah, 3 out of 5 for me. Yeah.
Cool. Um, yeah, man, I feel a lot of that. I'm gonna read the tweet that I made just to kick things off, just to kind of, this is where my head's at with it. What did I say after this movie? I said, um, first of all, Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana pretty much give the exact same performance. If you saw Spencer and if you saw
Uh,
the Batman, basically the same performance. But first off, I'm going to say I loved the first half of the Batman. I was like,
mhm.
okay, I'm into this. This is cool. I like what they're doing. But I felt it kind of fell apart in the middle. It meandered into melodrama, and then it seemed to forget what the hell it was even doing. Um, the action scenes, and really a lot of the scenes, I felt were derivative of other better Batman movies or more cohesive Batman movies.
Yeah.
Um, where I'm like, okay, we've seen that before, but at least that moment was earned, and this one doesn't feel as earned. I found myself thinking that a lot.
Yeah.
Um, all of the action scenes, I think you could have excised from this movie. I think if there was one thing that Warner Brothers was like, you got to have this in your fucking movie,
Yeah.
you got to have a Batmobile chase. You got to have him flying through the streets. You got to have this. You got to have that. And also, we're going to put it all in the fucking trailer, because really that's not spoiling anything. That is all the action that you get. What's in the
Yeah.
trailer is all that's in this movie, which was fine. It didn't, they all felt shoehorned in. None of them felt like they belonged when the other parts of it are kind of slow and methodical, and that,
Yeah.
it was like Rockstar shoehorning in the Batmobile into the last Arkham Knight game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't bad, um, but I felt a lot of its story threads lacked resolution.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I like Pattinson enough. He kind of his Bruce Wayne is different. He's much more,
Yeah.
um, but he doesn't. First of all, Bruce Wayne's hardly in this movie, which is cool.
Yeah.
But um, he is one of the characters I feel never gets proper resolution. Um, and I feel like Pattinson's Bat voice is kind of just Bale in Batman Begins, which is fine. At least it's not full Dark Knight Rises,
Yeah. Yeah. With a little
but
voice
it is a
changer
little
almost.
bit of that. I don't know. It's by the end of the movie, I felt like I was watching a Batman parody, and it was, as Alicia put it, emo camp.
Emo camp.
So my feeling is that it is also a 3 out of 5. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
when the credits rolled, I went, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of felt
Uh,
I felt the same way. Like, I agree with you. The first half is, it was exactly what I was, maybe not my expectation, but I was like, I like this kind of tone they're going for, where, he's narrating and all that kind of stuff. And
and that's the kind of shit, without going into spoilers, there's a lot of inconsistencies in this movie. A
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
things that they pick up and then forget about. And that's like one of them. I was like, oh my God, are we going to get him narrating the entire fucking movie? But it really only happens at the beginning and end.
An
I can't
end.
remember if it happens in the middle or not,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it happens so infrequently that you kind of go, oh yeah, they were doing that. Every single
Yeah.
time it pops
Dude,
up and you
oh,
go,
man,
oh,
I didn't notice. Yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, they stopped kind of doing that. Which that's like I mean, I like that inner monologue stuff because it gets you in the mindset of Bruce Wayne Batman and how he's feeling about these things and like, where his head's at. And then of course quickly introducing us into this Batman Year 2, character, and like where he's at in his
I
kind of vigilanteism.
did you notice how hard they wanted you to know he was in year 2?
Dude, they met. I was actually also one of the things I was thinking about. I was like, they mentioned that like a few times already. Even Gordon, like,
In like 4 consecutive scenes, they say it about 8 times. This is only your
yeah,
second year doing this. My second year doing this. Like, just like, I get it. I get it. You only needed one,
yeah,
maybe another one like somewhere later,
somewhere
but
down the
you never.
line. Yeah,
But it's so specific too. Well, for 2 years, no one says like, oh, a couple years now or a few years now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be
yeah,
cool if there was that kind of ambiguity to it.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I just think there's a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of wasted potential. For example, again, I'm not spoiling anything. The movie Halloween is in this movie. We know that. You know what I mean? From early production, we knew that this movie was going to take place on Halloween or parts of it. They do nothing with that. They do nothing with the holiday or any visual thing that they could have done. There's so much here that um, I wish they'd gone further with and
yeah,
pulled back because, like I said, so many kind of spinning plates. And then by the end, they're starting to just fall apart. And you're like, man, but if you had only gotten like, instead of 8 plates, you narrowed that down to like 4 or 3 and then went full on. But
with those, yeah,
we'll get into spoilers. I'll mention some of those specifically what I'm feeling. But like, I was just
yeah,
like, damn, because there were a lot of cool ideas in this movie. I
yeah, oh
just
yeah,
don't feel there was a lot of resolution.
yeah.
Um,
No, I agree with
or
you.
when
Like,
there was, it was too quick.
yeah, and that's the more I think about it now. I mean, I would love to see it a second time, and I don't know if I'm gonna go to theaters or wait till I think it's gonna go on HBO Max. I
April
think
19th.
yeah, like in next month or whatever. But yeah, I would. That was like the biggest thing, and I don't know if that's part of the pacing and the kind of editing of it too, but also the story beats. Right, there's kind of like moments where I was like, oh, like that's where they're going now, like, and I wasn't, I didn't say I had to keep up, like, I understood what was happening in the movie and like where they were going with it, but yeah, it's just some of it kind of caught me off guard. And then yeah, at the there's a certain point in the kind of midsection of the movie where you kind of find out some information and some stuff kind of comes to light. Um, and I was like, oh, is this how we're gonna end the movie? And I was like, oh wait, we have like a whole third act. It's like, there were moments where I was like, are we reaching the kind of third act? Like I try to kind of turn that stuff off where I'm like, I'm not looking at my watch or like my phone or whatever, but the pacing, maybe with maybe trimming some of the fat of the movie or maybe making a more focal,
Yeah.
story in there could have helped improve the movie a little bit. So,
What did you think of the score?
I mean, I
Everyone is blowing the score online. And by blowing,
yeah,
I mean like treating it very nicely.
was it
Um,
Michael Giacchino? Yeah,
Giacchino. Yeah.
he
Sorry for screwing up
yeah.
Paisan.
I mean, it's kind of crazy because he went from like I think he did the No Way Home. He's done a lot of like
He's done so
big
much. Yeah.
stuff, right? Big scores. I mean, I liked it. I always keep thinking it's like part of the Darth Vader theme. The first two
That's
notes.
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, I did like. I mean, of course, they kind of gave it like a motif. Like it appears a lot in different parts of the film. So I always like that where they have that consistency and they try to nail like, this is his theme or whatever. I kind of wish there. I mean, I know it's trying to be its own thing, so I do wish there was like, I guess spoiler for No Way Home if you guys have not seen it. They had in that movie he incorporated some of the other Spider-Man themes like into the Tom Holland stuff, and so I liked how he I still like it when I think even I don't know if Hans Zimmer did the same thing in the Nolan series, but I feel like he probably at one point took some of those like motifs and
No.
melodies. No, okay.
From Danny Elfman?
From
No.
no, okay.
None of
But
the
yeah,
previous.
that
But Danny Elfman did that in Joss Whedon's Justice League
oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
because they fired Junkie XL off of scoring, brought in Danny Elfman, and then he had to like recreate both Hans Zimmer and his own
Thing.
'89
Oh my god.
march
That
into Justice League.
sounds like a headache right there, but I
Yeah,
don't know, like it I feel like it matched the tone and the mood of the movie, but I think it was a good score. I'm not saying I'm like it's like the greatest thing in the world, but um,
yeah. To me, honestly, it kind of, at least Batman's theme, the dun dun dun
duh.
dun dun,
Yeah,
it sounded like temp music to me. It
yeah,
sounded like kind of a dude with his keyboard in the bedroom and not giving it much thought, being like, done. Like,
yeah,
I was like,
done.
fuck, really? I,
Yeah,
I, uh, I'll pay attention more to it when I see it tomorrow night. But yeah, I was kind of, I thought there was a note or two when Catwoman is on screen, and I was like, oh, I like that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I wasn't blown away by it.
yeah. And you would think like especially the past Batman. There's been really good Batman themes and soundtracks in the
Yeah,
movies, and it's a staple of the character in the movies. So uh, it's not my favorite one for sure, but yeah, I think
yeah.
at least and then I got surprised a little bit when they started playing the Nirvana song from the trailer in the movie,
Yeah.
which I was like, oh no, yeah,
And to play it twice, you know what I mean?
they
Like
did play it twice, yeah,
if you're going for Nirvana as like a theme, and I'm not counting this as spoilers. Fuck you. The voice in my head is like spoiler. I'm like, oh fuck you. Um, Pick a different song. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like if you're gonna do Nirvana twice, if you want Nirvana to be the theme or whatever, but I don't know, it just felt lazy. Um,
yeah.
and they were trying really hard to connect their Bruce Wayne to Kurt Cobain, and weird,
Yeah, I heard that
very
in some interviews.
weird
Yeah,
comparison. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying whatever. I'm just saying that's interesting.
yeah,
Um, but okay. I
yeah.
mean, I see it. I see what they're doing, but
I
I
might
don't know that I love it.
I might check out because sometimes I do this with movies. I check out the score like when they have it on streaming or whatever, and give it a listen or whatever. But yeah, I wasn't too blown away by it. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm so neutral on this movie. Like it's
Yeah.
like I enjoyed it. Like it was good. But yeah, it just felt like it was missing some of those elements and that extra juice, I guess. But
What really surprised me afterwards was like, okay, because I've been following, the development and quotes, and of
yeah,
course, because I love Batman and I'm very interested in the next Batman movie. But every actor has been talking about this script, the script, how good it was and how brilliant it was. And I'm really like, there's quite a few clunky lines. Some of the dialogue is very on the nose or too stilted. There's very few people talk like people in this movie.
yeah,
I remember that being one of my things with The Dark Knight. For as good as it is, some of the dialogue is very clunky.
yeah.
Um, and not only, of course, the dialogue, but just the structure of the movie.
Hmm.
Because I don't think the third act, or I don't know if it's the third act, but the final act works at all, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Which do you want to jump into spoilers?
Let's do it. Let's do
All
it.
right,
Spoiler alert,
dear
everyone.
imaginary audience, you have been warned. We are in spoiler territory now.
Spoiler territory.
Um, so, trying to think, where do we want to kick things off? Let's talk about the Waynes for a second.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, let's save that because that doesn't make sense yet to talk about that. Um, what do you think of Alfred?
Uh, wish he had more screen time. They kind of I wouldn't say shoehorn, but they alluded that Alfred trained Bruce Wayne because he was in like the military or something.
Yeah, it's like an
Um,
Earth One development from Jeff Johns. He's
yeah.
not one of my favorite writers.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So like, I liked Andy Serkis. I think he deserved more screen time or at least more interactions with Bruce Wayne.
yeah,
I hate to compare, but I just loved the Michael Caine, Christian Bale, Alfred relationship in the Nolan series because you really felt like they were family together, and no matter how beat up or mentally strained Bruce was, he was always there for him. And I
yeah,
always liked that dynamic between Bruce Wayne and Alfred. And I didn't say I didn't feel that throughout the movie. Like, you can, it's obviously the first film and they're trying to establish a connection between these two guys. I just wish there was more moments with him that to kind of give you that connection between the two of them.
yeah,
Andy Serkis, he's a brilliant actor, and he's obviously well known for his motion cap characters and stuff. But I still like seeing him in some movies. And as the Alfred character, yeah, that was the one of the kind of big negatives, not big negatives, but like it was the one thing
yeah.
I
I
really
mean,
wanted more in the movie, to see more of their dynamic. Cause yeah,
yeah,
like
he's barely in it.
yeah,
And Alfred has always been a source of levity.
exactly.
Um,
I feel like that's what
and
it was missing. Yeah,
there's none of that humor, none of that heart. They have a very cold relationship. Um, and yet at the same time, this movie kind of banks on you knowing the relationship between Bruce and Alfred so that it doesn't have to do the heavy lifting,
exactly. Yeah,
right? It has a bunch of moments in the first scene. I remember watching it going, this is the first fucking scene that these two are having in this new trilogy or new friend, whatever you want to call it. And Bruce's one of his first lines to Alfred is, "You're not my dad." And I was like, "What? Like you couldn't be a little more subtle? Like you couldn't? I don't know. It all felt very rushed, um, but also too stretched out at the same time.
yeah, yeah.
They wanted you to feel something like when he got blown up, and I'm like, I feel nothing towards. I liked Batman, but I felt nothing for Bruce Wayne in this movie. He
Yeah.
was, when I walked out thinking about Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, when he's talking about the difference between, when he's trying to explain where Ben Stiller went wrong with his character of Simple Jack, you know,
Uh,
and he's like, Tom Hanks, is he stupid? Yes. Slow? Maybe. Retarded? Possibly. He's like, he gave the audience a way in.
yeah, yeah,
What's his name? Sean Penn didn't. He went full retard, and he walked on empty-handed. And I feel like the Pattinson went full
In this, yeah, yeah,
in this. He gave us no weight into the Bruce Wayne character.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and at the same time, like, it's great that we don't see the origin again. It's great that we don't see the Waynes, but maybe flashbacks would have been helpful if you wanted to help differentiate. But you know, Zack Snyder was really guilty of just assuming fans had read all these other comics, and
yeah,
that's why
yeah.
this Batman, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's what Reeves was doing, but he also was absolutely relying on our shared knowledge of the
Of
Batman
the Batman.
universe.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
think you're
just,
right. Yeah,
they needed to forge their own a bit more for us to feel the impact of what they were going for.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's, I think, very, very evident with Alfred. I think is like the prime example of that.
yeah.
Um,
And it's like, if they're gonna, they're doing this trilogy, like it's, yeah, they're, he's gonna be in it in all three movies, Alfred. So it's like, we have to get emotionally invested in these characters, and we obviously have we know Batman and Alfred are, two peas in a pod or whatever. But like, I think that's like the biggest thing that they have to nail. So I hope they explore that more when they do the second film. I hope they can do that more. And my thinking about it now with like how Pattinson didn't feel so much of a Bruce Wayne. My I wouldn't say this is the excuse, but like I'm trying to like go through like, okay, he's just been this guy for like 2 years. He's still kind of figuring out what his identity is in a way, like as far as like what the meaning of Batman is, and
yes.
yeah,
And I that is absolute, like, that's what's going on. But that's where I talk about like lack of resolution, right?
yeah,
At the end, we should have seen him sign a big check and give it, whatever.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
we never get the Batman gets resolution, but Bruce Wayne doesn't get resolution in this movie.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
Dang, Alfred. Yeah,
Alfred, baby.
Alfred, baby.
Um, what'd you think of Catwoman? What'd you think of Zoe Kravitz?
I really liked her. I think she was my
Yeah.
favorite character in the movie. I mean, the only thing I would say, I felt like she was underutilized, kind of in parts of when they started kind of, he kind of had her do the kind of recon mission inside the club and all that stuff.
Right, right.
Um, I think she started out really like in kind of on her own, independent. Like you could tell she can carry her own weight or whatever. So I kind of wish we had more of that, like where she was kind of one upping Batman a little bit more, and she kind
No,
of,
he's Batman.
yeah, well, yeah, but
What are you talking about?
what I'm saying is like, yeah, yeah. I mean, they kind of partner up, and then she kind of is like the sidekick to him in a way. I just felt like
Which any other character you put next to Batman, they become the sidekick.
true, true, true. I don't know. I don't know. But I liked her, how she was introduced. Kind of her involvement in the story plot. I was trying to figure out if there's a point in the film where they're looking for this girl who was at the club, and that was like her roommate or something. Wasn't really sure if that
Yeah.
was her lover or her friend, because I know Selena
I think
Kyle.
it could have been both. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just saw a movie called Kimmy it's on HBO too as well.
How was that?
Really good. And
Nice.
for the audio nerd in me, there's like a lot of great scenes in it. I'm like, wow, they actually
Nice.
shot this film like this. But yeah, I'm I really have I really like Zoe Kravitz. Like she's I really like her as an actress, and I think she was the perfect fit for the Catwoman role. I definitely would like to see her more. They kind of leave it at the end, like they kind of part their ways, and I'm sure she'll hopefully come back in another movie, or I would like to see more of her. So that's the good thing is by the end of the movie, I was like, I want to see more Catwoman. I want to see
Yeah.
her kick some more ass and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, yeah. How about you?
Nice, man. I liked her. I thought some of her dialogue was a little, on the nose, whatever. I kind of had hoped she would bring a little bit more, or we had gotten a little bit more, but I agree. I'm really looking forward to seeing her grow into the role. I love that. It's clear that they've introduced her here, and she's probably going to be a mainstay through the series. I'm so yes, like
Yes.
thank you. Um, and also one kind of minor thing, but actually it's kind of a huge deal. Because I think it's the first time in any Batman movie where he doesn't reveal his identity to anyone. Only Alfred
Right.
knows.
Yeah.
I kept thinking like, fuck, he's gonna reveal his fucking identity to Catwoman, and he didn't. And I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I thought it was pitch
Keep it
perfect.
on the hood.
Yeah. But no, I liked her overall. I'm excited to see where she takes the character. Um, and yeah, because my reviews, the more we talk about this movie, it's going to sound negative. Because I think a lot of it was sloppy and whatever. I can find gripes with
And yeah,
anything.
and yeah.
And but having said all that, I am not very, I'm optimistic and I'm curious to see what they do going forward.
Yeah,
So
I would like to see more of her for sure. Um, what do you think of the Penguin? Which
I liked
I
them.
I was like, because I knew going in it was Colin Farrell, but man, some of those scenes I was like, dude, I could see it in his eyes. Like you could tell it's Colin Farrell in his eyes. But oh man, that makeup was, I mean, killer job on the people who did the costuming and the makeup
Yeah,
because
that was incredible.
that
That was
was
incredible.
incredible. I actually just recently watched Hot Ones interview with Colin Farrell. He was like the last guest they had, and they were talking about like putting on costumes and makeup, and he's done a lot of films where he does stuff like that. But he said he was like, this was one of those makeup jobs where like I disappeared into the character. Like it you kind of forget it's there. And so yeah, what'd you think of the Penguin?
I liked him. I thought the movie could have used a lot more characters like him. Um,
Yeah.
they tried to make this ultra realistic, grim, dark, always raining world.
Oh yeah, that's
And
the thing I
like
noticed.
and like, we've gotten that so many times with Batman.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
ready for and it pisses me off when I'm, seeing people online be like, well, like it's super realistic. Well, this is like more realistic than like Nolan. I think Nolan bent the, suspension of disbelief as far as it could go. You know what I mean? He made
Yeah.
it seem real, but he knew it wasn't real. It was a hyper realism. Um, I'm not really interested in a real life Batman one because it's a fucking fantasy,
Yeah.
a children's story at that. Um, but also, like, I love Batman for the iconography. I love seeing him swoop down from, through broken glass with the cape extended. You know, that's why I still love Batman 89 to this day. It's not maybe the best story or anything like that, but the imagery is just so
So
fucking
yeah,
cool.
it screams
And
Batman for
so
sure.
seeing Batman just walk up to a person or knock on a door and walk into a club, like give me a little more. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
all I needed was you're in a dark room and Batman emerges from the shadows. We don't need to know how he got there. I don't like, but like, is that really intimidating in the beginning of the movie when there's all those thugs and he just walks up and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
well,
I
okay.
although I gotta say I liked that. I did like not how he emerged out of it, but I liked how they had a lot of scenes where they were like they had like the thugs or whatever looking at the shadows, and you're kind of like, is he gonna pop out of there? Like
And see, that's another fucking. They just took that out of the Dark Knight. That's like one of the first things in the Dark Knight. There's so many scenes in this movie that are just kind of like callbacks or redone versions of this, and they use it as shorthand. And I mean, it's effective, but it's
yeah,
also like kind of a cheat. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I could see that. Yeah,
But no, that was really cool. That was a good time. But for Penguin, he's the only character in this movie that is a full-on fucking cartoon and having fun.
yeah,
And that works well with the grim, dark bullshit in the background. And you have this flamboyant character in the foreground. Make all of them that way. Make them stand out in their own way against this fucking world, and that's how you blend it. But
Yeah.
when we see Batman as a real man walking up to a thug to beat him up, there's just something not as interesting or fun. And I get that this movie's not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be like Zodiac and Seven, and like, how about it does something original?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that it took the detective kind of route, but and yeah, he follows up on leads. He does this, he does that, but we don't really see his genius and intellect. Alfred is feeding him answers just like the other fucking movies.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't, it was more style over substance, once again with the Batman movie. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm jaded as fuck.
It's
But like,
okay. No. I
but everyone,
yeah.
the director cited Seven and Zodiac as influences, and now every
Person's saying that.
person on the
Yeah.
internet is like, it's so much like Zodiac.
Yeah.
And
Oh
like,
man.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like how I felt with Joker to a lesser extent, obviously. But he basically, Todd Phillips just took Taxi Driver and King Comedy, put the Joker as the lead, and then was like, see, and it's like, that's not original. Like, that's like cool that you're able to like do, and maybe that's why the movie by the end felt like a parody to me, because they're just kind of putting on the mask of these other filmmakers and doing impersonations of these other movies. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? um which again isn't as interesting as like, because this does feel like Nolan rehashed, and everyone's using the same terms to describe it as they did with Nolan, but somehow it's like everyone forgot the Nolan films existed. I don't know.
Yeah.
um Not saying they're the greatest thing ever made either. They have a whole lot of problems, but God, I went on a fucking rant. Where was I?
No, it's a-
Let's talk about Commissioner Gordon.
yeah, Gordon, dude.
What did you think? What did you
I,
think?
I, I really like. Is it what's his name? The actor, Jeffrey Wright. Is that his name?
Yeah, Jeffrey
Jeffrey Wright.
Wright.
I liked him. I think those were the moments I dug the most, especially in that first half of the film. Was that's kind of like, I think we talked about this, like the expectation of like, we want to see Batman detective, and we want to have want to see them have conversations together, and kind
Hmm.
of build that rapport with each other, which is funny because I felt like there was more kind of rapport and chemistry with Gordon versus like Alfred and Batman. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah,
there
big
was
time.
more
He's the
moments with,
other.
yeah, he's the big one,
Yeah.
and I wish they kind of spread those out a little more evenly between Alfred and Gordon, like the two kind of main guys who are interacting with Batman behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's again tough to compare, but I freaking loved Gary Oldman in the Nolan series, and he had
Yeah.
that, obviously that very he was very obviously a good cop, and someone who will stand up for justice and everything, but also he had a heart. And I would say I didn't get that from Jeffrey Wright. Like, it was definitely, I think for the most part he was putting on the cop hat kind of character with a lot of the stuff that's in the Batman. So I kind of wish there was more from him as far as like, I want to save the city. He's like kind of seeing his stake in it, and kind of saving Gotham, like why he's there, and if he becomes commissioner in maybe the next film or whatever, what's his kind of role to play. Whereas I felt like, someone like Gary Oldman, like I think he played it so well to the point where, yeah, he cared about like the people in the city, and like just as much as Batman did. So I think that's the part where it lacked a little bit. Buddy, sorry. Let's grab my cat before he shut off. My computer's on the left side of me, so if he hit the button. So that was like the only
Death
negative.
switch.
That was the only negative I had. Is like, I wish he had more of a connection to the people of Gotham, and saving the city, and kind of why does he want to stick around and be around all these kind of dirty cops, and what's the reason why, because he wants to fight for justice and all that kind of stuff. So I wish it was a little more of that, but I did like their interactions throughout the movie, and they had a lot of moments where they just literally meet up and like talk about some stuff, and I like those moments. It doesn't have to be just pure kind of action and stuff. And that first kind of scene where they set up like the murder scene, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and you could tell the kind of how people in the police, kind of the crew is kind of feeling about, maybe he's only been interacting with him a few times for some cases. So I like that kind of dynamic where, they were kind of like, I don't know if we could trust Batman yet, but like you are kind of like fronting him and repping him. So
See, that's one of the things that I felt was kind of inconsistent. Like, I would have liked a firm kind of this is the police stance on Batman.
hmm
Like, it was such a weird middle ground. Like, it should either have been kind of like a common thing that Gordon usually does this, but everyone always seems kind of shocked, but they're also not going to tell him to leave. And
yeah,
like, Jordan or Gordon has to keep like justifying it. It just seemed, I don't know. I would have liked like just something. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah. No, I think you're right. That's the one thing that was kind of noticeable was like, especially those first few scenes with them in it. Like, yeah, is everyone cool with Batman being here? Like,
yeah, it's never very clear. And I feel like there's a scene kind of in the middle where um, Batman has to like punch Gordon to get out of the police station.
yeah,
Um, which one, Gordon's like, hey, if you take the stairs to the right and then go up 3 flights and then out the door on the left, it's like Batman would know how to get the fuck out of there.
yeah. If he's
That
appeared
that
there,
that
you would
pissed me
know.
off a little bit. But so Batman punches him and takes off. But are the I don't remember like a moment where like because they're shooting at him and everything and he escapes.
Yeah,
Um, and then like in the next scene, the cops are still cool with Batman. You know what I mean? I was very confused by that.
yeah, you're
Um,
right. Oh yeah, yeah, I didn't even notice that. But you're right. That kind of inconsistency with like how they feel about him being around, and
yeah,
do they agree with him kind of tagging along, especially with Gordon, right? So it's like yeah, wow, I didn't even notice that. But
yeah.
um,
But I mean,
yeah,
but I like Jeffrey Wright a lot. Yeah, Gary Oldman's still my favorite, but he's great. There was a couple line readings of his where I felt like interesting that they chose that take. Um, there's a couple times where like the Riddler will leave a clue and it rhymes, and then Gordon's line rhymes with the rhyme, and it's like it's not on purpose, but like am I the only one that noticed that? Like
yeah,
what the fuck? Um,
yeah.
so yeah, so that's interesting to me. Um, what else? Um,
Shoot.
John Turturro was really good in this movie.
Yeah, you know what? I liked him in it. It's kind of funny because I just recently watched I watched it with my girlfriend and her son, the Transformers movie, and he was in it. So I wouldn't say I've seen him in like more serious kind of roles too. So he's a very diverse actor. And so I don't really I don't associate him as being like a comedic actor or whatever. But I really liked him as Falcone, and I think I don't know if we'd deserve to. I don't know if this is like in the comics, but like I don't know if like the connection between Selena Kyle and him as the father, like that. I felt that was a little shoehorned in. Like they didn't have to
So
be related.
so what
But
happens in the comics, spoilers for 25-year-old comics. Um, this was through The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, the sequel, and then there's a short story that Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale did that takes place kind of in between parts of Dark Victory, and it's starring Catwoman. It's called When in Rome. And in Long Halloween, she's at Carmine Falcone's, which the movie calls him Falcone. As an Italian American, I'm very offended. I hated that so much. It took me out of the movie every time I heard Falcone, not Falcone. Um, but yeah, she appears in Long Halloween, and you never know why. That she keeps kind of coming back to Carmine Falcone.
yeah,
And at the end of year one, she scratches his face, and we see the scars in a couple of scenes, but
they don't really. Yeah,
it
you're
would have
right.
been nice if we had gotten that moment. You know what I mean? In Dark Victory, she appears once again, and then at the end of Dark Victory or the end of When in Rome, I forget, but she goes to the grave of Carmine Falcone and basically says, I know the truth. I know that you're my father, and blah 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 blah.
Oh, okay.
So it's not, and that's what I mean. Like when the movie kind of devolves into melodrama, when that's a totally melodramatic because he's my father. It was
Yeah.
like we couldn't be a little more fucking subtle. Like you couldn't have let that linger for a movie or two if you wanted.
Hmm.
But and that's kind of what I mean. Like if there's no resolutions, the resolutions come too quick. That was one of them.
Yeah.
Um, the other one, I'll talk about the Waynes now, right? God, we haven't gotten to Riddler yet. But if you played the Telltale Batman games, they're very story driven, and it's Penguin and Riddler, I believe, are the villains of the first game. And I can't believe no one is really talking about the influence of these games on Matt Reeves. Um, and basically, it rewrites kind of Batman history, very well done, by the way,
Okay.
and says that the Waynes were in fact corrupt. Um,
Oh, okay.
but not like this movie where it turns out his mom was in Arkham and then she was committed for insanity and Thomas didn't was running for mayor and he didn't want um, the story to get out. So he talked to Carmine Falcone, who put pressure on the guy and blah, 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 blah. And then Alfred's bullshit, like he was just trying to protect your mother. He was trying to protect you. And it makes it all okay. Fuck that. Make Thomas Wayne, like, make the Waynes bad people. And then
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of that would rock fucking Batman to his core, right?
Yeah.
Because he's like, I've been doing this whole mission in their name,
Hmm.
but they weren't shit. They were bad people. Does he continue being Batman? Yes, because it's bigger than that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
it's there's so much to that, but this felt like such a fucking cop out, and the resolution came so quickly. Um, yeah, I was really that's one of the moments where I was like, God, you had something so interesting and could have
Yeah.
done something so different. And you chose the safe, what is this, a fucking Disney movie? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I was so bummed with that.
I
Um,
agree. That's the point of the movie where I felt like, yeah, I didn't tune out, but like I was like, oh, this is where they're kind of going with this. I was expecting it to be like the Waynes were corrupt or something like that, and yeah, that would have been a stronger kind of story beat in the movie. But yeah, that's yeah. And then of course when I think they kill Falcone, like, or they
yeah,
kill
they
him.
kill him. Falcone does get cut. Everyone in this movie fucking monologues, by the way,
Yeah.
much like myself and talking about Batman. But Falcone does, it's kind of nice how he's like, I think it's again on the nose and it's like not good dialogue. But as a fan of the Long Halloween is probably my favorite Batman story. He's like, he was a little kid and he watched from the stairs as his daddy operated on me on the table. And that whole flashback is in the Long Halloween. So it's kind of cool that that made it into the movie.
Yeah, to give it more
You know,
context of like their relationship with him and everything like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Shoot. Yeah. I felt like that was the part the weakest point. Like I felt a little confused because I was like, oh, so where are they like going with this whole Wayne backstory and like it was getting a little crazy because you're just like the whole thing is like who was the rat? That's kind of like the thing they were trying to drive home. Like he's trying to figure out who this person was because there's this whole conspiracy behind the all these families and stuff. When it got to that reveal of like Wayne was trying Bruce's dad was trying to like cover up this thing, and then unfortunately the person got killed or something in the process of it. You're right. I think there could have been a stronger story beat there to push the Wayne family to be more of a more corrupted family, which would definitely shake things up because we haven't really seen that in the other films. They've always been said to be kind of good people of the city.
Yeah,
And
these upstanding citizens, and
yeah,
they're saints almost, and that would have really been fucking wild to see these saintly figures. Actually, nope, they were just as corrupt.
yeah,
Um, anyway, that was for me. That's like the most missed opportunity of this movie.
yeah, yeah.
Um, we haven't talked about Riddler. What are your thoughts on Paul Dano's Riddler?
Interesting. I don't think I'm not sure if it's in the comics or that kind of version of Riddler. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. It's funny because I always just have the Jim Carrey like question mark. This just flamboyant like wildness, and I kind of liked that way of like the Riddler being this kind of deceptive kind of person. I chuckled a little bit when you found out he was like a streamer at one point. So, which
Hollywood gets the internet so wrong. He's got 500 followers. That motherfucker would have millions of followers, like
yeah, yeah,
instantly.
based off of
You know what I
the
mean?
even the QAnon kind of recent like QAnon stuff, it's like yeah, this could be believable. Like I could see a whole bunch of people being behind this guy.
Not in
But
a week though. The movie it takes place over a
yeah,
fucking week, and it's just like that stretches the
the
suspension of disbelief
exactly,
incredibly.
yeah. So yeah, I liked him. I think I mean Paul Dano's he's always, I mean, I when he got cast us for the role, I was like, yeah, he's definitely I think he could definitely play this character. And I was kind of thinking of like I really liked the Arkham series, like Riddler, and like how he was kind of been that kind of how they kind of portrayed him there. Um, I guess as the movie continues, you kind of see like, oh, what's his motivation, like, and then they kind of pay off a few kind of things he left for him, and the riddles were kind of weird. Like I don't know, I always just have such a vivid memory of the Jim Carrey ones, and I still liked how they presented it, so kind of goofy and like elaborate a little bit. He's almost like putting on a show, and to some degree, I guess in this movie he is kind of putting on his show. But they took definitely a different direction with how they kind of portrayed the character. I'm not saying I didn't like it, and I'm not saying I didn't hate it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like a different take on it. That's kind of cool. They gave him a different look, and you know the way when he started talking to him at Arkham, when they finally get him in Arkham. I was hoping, I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna get the scene where they're like talking to each other. And I guess I just didn't realize how crazy he was. I guess the tough part about having this kind of mysterious like serial killer and this guy who's like leaving clues is like you don't get too many moments with him. Only these like video, kind of iPhone kind of, I'm making a
That,
statement kind of thing, which was very like
yeah.
funny enough. That did remind me of like the Joker stuff in the Nolan series where he's kind of making his
Yeah.
public statements and everything like that. But I still think the like Wayne's being corrupt would have drove home. I think that would have emphasized his kind of like, I know the truth of like like he would have had a bigger kind of reveal to drop on everyone in the movie. I thought that would have been a bigger thing instead of this kind of this whole rat situation and everything like that. So, but I
Yeah.
liked him. I thought it was a very interesting take on the character. I did wish we had more of him unmasked, almost like he had to kind of hide behind his
Why did they hide
costume.
his face? Why
I
did they
don't
hide
know.
his face for the entire like lead up and all the trailers when it was just Paul Dano in glasses?
Yeah, yeah.
What the fuck?
I think there
What
was a
the fuck?
missed opportunity there. I mean, if they ever do, like, if they ever, I'm sure they'll probably bring him back in some way or form. I would like to see a different version. Like maybe this is the end of his era of this kind of like masked character, because now he's kind of revealed, and in Arkham and everything like that. So, maybe his persona and like the way he kind of like shows himself off will change. That's what I hope for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it worked for the kind of like murder mystery. I'm this kind of serial killer guy. But I think, yeah, I wanted more of like, if you're casting Paul Dano, like, I want to see him being crazy. Like, those scenes in the Arkham, I was like, I want to see more of that. Like, I want to see him doing that. I mean, it was a little over the top, not gonna lie,
It
but
was,
like,
yeah.
but I was like, I want
That's
to
where the movie
see,
started to venture into camp. I was like,
yeah,
what? 'Cause
yes,
that's his performance. It was just, it felt inconsistent to me.
mm-hmm.
Um, and you're right. No version of the Riddler from the comics, from anything, is like that. So once again, we have just, oh, I'm going to take this other thing, but call it the Riddler. I'm going to take the Zodiac and just call it the Riddler. The Riddler's never been like a serial killer, as far as I know.
Yeah,
Um, so that's kind of like, all right, whatever. You can reinvent it. Fine, whatever. But yeah, the whole what bums me out too, with him being like on the cell phone and everything, and him and Batman talking to each other. Never once do they face off. Never
Oh, you're
once.
right. Yeah, they
The
don't
first
physically.
conversation they have is over a fucking FaceTime, which is
Yeah,
very uncinematic. And then when they do have their Arkham conversation, it's between glass. It's not very interesting to look at.
yeah,
It
yeah.
looks like when Ben Affleck Batman was talking to Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor at the end of BVS.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wanted to be Batman and Heath Ledger, Joker from Dark Knight, but it
Yeah.
wasn't, and it just. I was reading something though, so maybe I missed something when I was watching this. I took it that he knows who Bruce Wayne and Batman, that they're the same.
That's what I thought. Getting out of
But
the
then I was
theater. Yeah.
reading something yesterday or something, and someone was like, "Yeah, he doesn't know. He's just talking about Bruce Wayne to Batman." That's not how I took it.
Yeah.
I took it
Yeah.
as he knows that they're one and the same, and that's just another thread that they just kind of left hanging. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I don't know.
yeah, that part did confuse me a little bit when that happened because I was like, is he talking? Does he know? Like he's saying it, in front of him,
Yeah,
and then I guess they're just trying to tie it to like, Bruce Wayne's kind of the main tie between all these things and families and rats and all that kind of stuff. Um, which would have been kind of the big. I thought that would have been a cool reveal.
yeah.
And to showcase how maybe like the Riddler outsmarted Batman, to
Hmm.
kind of give him a little more weight to him in that way. But yeah, you make a really good point there with they don't physically face off, and like that would have been cool to see them. Maybe they have their phone interactions, and then he finally gets him in a position where maybe he's there and he doesn't know he's there. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It would have been cool because they had to keep up the kind of like he's like a few steps in front of him. Batman. He's kind of like he's always ahead of him in a way, and that's kind of the interaction they have, and it's the crime scenes and wherever they go to like see what he did or whatever. But yeah, if anything, I would like to see more of the Riddler in the physical form facing off with Batman. I want to see some crazy, weird stuff with him, and I think they could go there. But yeah, you're right. That was kind of a missed opportunity to kind of. He never really had a chance to just be there in front of him, aside from that scene at the kind of near the end. So, um, yeah, shoot, man. Who
Two more
else?
things I want to talk about.
Yes.
Um, the final
Oh yeah, the
set piece,
set
if you
piece. Yeah.
will. So the Riddler wins. He blows up the bridges that we only learn about for the first time when they mention them, that they're
That
getting
too.
blown
Yeah.
up.
You're right. I was like, wait, there's
Um,
levy. There's like, yeah, there's
for a
like,
3 hour fucking movie, for you not to set your shit up, for everyone to like talk about what a great script this is, and there not to be any setup for that kind of shit is very. It's okay. Okay. That's it makes me think that a lot of this shit was mandated by Warner Brothers.
oh,
Um,
okay, yeah,
like that the movie would have ended at the logical endpoint, which was when they caught Riddler. But
yeah,
instead, it goes on, um, and his internet followers or something, they were trying to make a statement about QAnon, but they weren't saying anything. It was very again, it was just an empty blockbuster kind of. We're going to use the real world, but that's not how the real world works. So cool. Um, they're trying to assassinate the new mayor,
yeah,
um, who I don't. Would an election still go on if your current mayor was assassinated less than
yeah.
a week before?
I didn't even think about that, but yeah,
And she's having
she,
like a celebration, like, all right, I'm the new mayor.
yeah,
Weird choices all around. But their plan is to assassinate her. Batman. Everyone's like in this place as Gotham is flooding. Batman has to fight off these Riddler wannabes. They're all dressed just like Paul Dano.
hmm
Um, and then everything blows up and he saves or he starts like carrying people to safety. And that's pretty much the end of the movie.
yeah,
Um, there was a line in there where he's carrying, I think he's like helping people, and he's like, "The city is scarred, like me." And me and Alicia turned to each other, and we both went, "I'm 50 Shades of fucked up." It felt like such a fucking 50 Shades line. That was really disappointing. And then him and Catwoman part ways. They ride motorcycles together, and then they ended the movie like The Dark Knight with him riding a motorcycle.
Yeah,
I was like, are
yeah.
they really going to end it on him riding a motorcycle? Yup. Um, so anyway, I don't know. Thoughts on the finale?
I kind of agree with you. I the setup towards that, I guess the only thing I could say is like, yeah, aside from I don't know what the way to handle like your mayor gets assassinated, then I guess the person just becomes the mayor now. But they did set that up as far as like, okay, I could see there's going to be this event that's going to happen to.
No, no, they set that up. I just meant like the that the walls or the flooding
Oh,
could
oh
happen.
yeah, that
Like we
stuff.
didn't
I
really
didn't
weren't
really,
told
yeah.
that.
We weren't really told, and I like how they set up Gotham, but also those are the kind of like things they missed on as far as like, if you're trying to tell, I mean, Gotham is a character in its own in all these Batman films, based off like the people that are in there, the what's happening in it, the look of it. So I think that's a big kind of missed opportunity there to kind of tell the audience like, hey, there's these things, it's surrounded by water, this city, and you know, maybe there should have been like a scene where, we don't have to say like, oh, these could break one day, we don't have to say that, but
Just give us a little something.
just something
Is how many times do we go to the Iceberg Lounge when one of those scenes could have been like maybe a drug deal at one of
at one of
those
those.
walls
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever, and like a shot, and then you idiot, well,
yeah, yeah.
anything. That's
To
just off the top of my fucking head.
No, no, I think that drives home the kind of stakes and levity of that like last act is yeah, I didn't realize that was going to happen. I mean, it it's kind of, I mean, I thought it was cool that like the water flooded, and it's like we're going to like hopefully this next movie it's going to be like Gotham underwater, and there's going to be like factions, and you know Penguin's going to probably take over and do his own thing. It kind of reminded me of like the Arkham City stuff where they section off the city and all that kind of they have like little sections. But yeah, I thought that was I think that was a little lazy as far as the kind of how they set that up, and when it happened, it's like oh this is happening now. Like
Yeah.
it there wasn't like that kind of setup towards it. So, and that's a big thing, especially for like it's like in the Nolan series, and I think this was the first Batman Begins where he has to go. He takes the Bat tank, and
Mhm.
goes across because we know that there's a bridge, and there's like these two kind of islands with Gotham. So they set that up already, so that when that scene comes, like he has to
His car can make the jump.
he can make the jump, and they even mentioned like it used to be a bridging vehicle or whatever, right, to create bridges. So, those just like very little details, just to kind of tell, like just to kind of prepare us for like those moments to happen. So I thought that part was kind of out of nowhere. Um, and then I guess the set piece of like I don't know what it was. It's like a hallway or not hallway, convention center, I guess would be the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that was interesting. I mean, it was cool. Like he was on the rafts and stuff, and he was, it makes it more kind of difficult and agile, whatever. But yeah, I thought the third act of it was kind of like, oh, I didn't know. But I mean, at least it caught me off guard to like, oh, I didn't know they were kind of going this way. But I could have, I wish there was like a little bit more out
Yeah.
of it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of it. And then yeah, the ending where they kind of part ways. Although I am it gets me excited to see like Catwoman again. It seems like they kind of leave it
Yeah.
open ended for her to come back again. And then obviously the cinema. I like the shot. I do wish, kind of similar to where they kind of gave us little gems of the city and maybe how its kind of environment. I do wish there was more moments where Batman um, was like put in a situation where he's saving someone, um, just to kind of like, you can have the first half of the movie more like he's still struggling to kind of figure out what this is, and he's still considered like this menacing kind of vigilante, and then they kind of give you that scene at the end where he's kind of getting the children, and it's a great, it looks great, and it's a cool scene. But I wish there was like more of those. Maybe not even, you don't have to have a lot, but like some of those moments where Bruce Wayne slash Batman is like starting to realize like the suit is more than just like you know like my kind of vengeance or whatever, and me
Yeah.
upholding these things. Like I wanted that to build a little bit more, so it felt more earned when he was getting those kids and everything like that. Because like that was like the moment where it's like he's the hero, like he's the guy who's saving all these people. I wish there was just a moment where like we had a few of those happen, where
Yeah.
maybe he was in a questionable situation, or maybe he had to like he had to kind of make a decision really quickly, like should I just leave this guy here or should I save someone here? I think there was a moment where like the guy, I think it was the guy who was like the the informant in the guy who he beat him up or whatever, and he like saves him or something. But like I just I don't know, like he was gonna fall off the cliff and he like saves him, I think, or the building. Like I think that was kind of a moment, but like I felt like yeah, maybe you just help some civilian or something. Like you need those moments to kind of like to kind of show like he's struggling to figure out who he is, and like is this something, is Batman going to represent you know darkness and all this, or is he going to represent fighting for justice and saving people?
Yeah.
um, so that was the only part I was like, oh, like did it feel earned at the end where he's like saving people, or
Yeah. There was
or
the one quick scene in the very beginning where he saves the guy and the guy's afraid of him,
yeah, yeah,
but they needed something more.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it could have been at the moment, but
It's
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's I mean, it didn't have to be like just a bank robbery, or it could have been any situation, but I think it needed a scene to kind of show you the struggle that he's trying to find out what this means to him. And I always felt like that's always been a theme with the Batman movies. Usually it's the duality between like being Bruce Wayne and Batman and what that represents, but I think also it's just like, what why am I being this person? Why am I doing this? Is it to uphold the Wayne name, or is it to to save people and fight for justice and all that kind of stuff? So I think that they could use more of those moments. So what I hope for is in the next movie they can maybe have those moments where now he's kind of considered, people recognize him now as someone who is willing to save people. um,
Yeah.
but I wanted more of that struggle, because that's the part that intrigues me the most about the Batman films, is his struggle to like to like cope with this whole thing, and his identity. It's like I think I needed more of that, and maybe that goes home with like the Bruce Wayne stuff, like not really feeling like there's a lot of Bruce Wayne moments, and
Yeah. Well, I
that's
mean, if you read the comics and shit, he's Batman 90% of the time. And in this movie, he's Batman 90% of the
100% of the time,
time.
right?
It's just, yeah, we didn't have a way into his Bruce Wayne. So when he was on screen, it was very hard to, I don't know. It
Yeah,
was, yeah,
you didn't have to give me the like rich billionaire Bruce Wayne, even though I thought that was like the best parts of like some of the fun parts of the Nolan stuff, because he was
yeah.
putting on his mask, and of course Rachel says, "This is your mask." Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's always been the intriguing part of the character to me. Not reading a lot of the comics, but like seeing the movies, I think that's always been the kind of central theme they always play with with the character. So I want more of that. I just felt like it was
Yeah.
lacking that, and maybe that goes, with the whole Bruce Wayne, kind of not seeing too much of Bruce Wayne in there. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I know there's lots of nitpick about the movie, but
I've got one more thing that we absolutely have to cover.
okay,
Okay. There was a cameo in this movie, a vocal cameo, if I may, where Riddler is in prison and he's throwing tantrum about losing. Technically, I don't know. His plan worked. Like he didn't assassinate the mayor, but other than that, his plan worked. I don't know what he's pissed about, but he's screaming, and then this other prisoner is like, "Hey, don't feel bad." One was this not in your screening?
It was, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're
Okay,
talking about. Yeah,
and it's clearly the Joker because it's in this town, one minute you're up, the next you're a clown. It all felt to me very much like a fucking poorly made or poorly written, well made fan film. Um,
yeah,
and this was one of the moments in the movie that felt like just parody to me.
yeah,
I hated it in general. Like it's a nice idea that the Rogues Gallery exists, but I don't think I don't know. It felt very sloppy. Felt very
yeah.
sloppy to me, and
I
it felt way too pleased with itself.
Yeah, yeah. I could have gone without it, honestly, and I at first was a little confused because I didn't know who it was until the line dropped, where you can kind of piece it together. But I thought it was like Two Face at one point because his face was all messed up or something, and maybe it's the way it was shot. Obviously, they don't want to reveal too much or whatever. I did see who was cast. They cast the gentleman. I can't remember his name, but he was in the Eternals
Barry
movie.
Coig or Koger or he's
Yeah,
Irish. I would forget.
some Irish
He
guy.
was in 1917. He's been in some stuff.
Okay,
Uh,
so yeah, I mean, yeah, it was if yeah, that's like, did we need that? And yeah, I know there's I would say can't have Batman without Joker. I would say, but like, I don't know. I feel like they have so much to play with. Like, I want to see some other characters, some other villains pop up in these other movies, and I hope they don't. I liked even though the Riddler was kind of the main villain in the movie, I liked how they had Penguin, and they had he had his role to play in the movie,
yeah,
and there wasn't a moment where it was like too many things, too many villains. They have Falcone and all that, and so I like that how they could exist where maybe they and I don't want to team up. Like, I mean, probably Riddler and
yeah,
Joker may team up, or they might influence each other in the film. But yeah, I was a little underwhelmed by it because maybe at first I was like, "Who is that?" And it's like, "Oh, they're trying to do like the Joker."
and for a movie that is stressing so hard, this is real. This is real. This is so realistic. And then you put that scene in there, and it undoes everything. Like this movie is
Yeah,
so inconsistent with what it's trying to be and what it's trying to accomplish.
yeah,
Which is maddening because when it knows what it's doing, when it knows what it's after, it's fun, it's good.
yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah.
say fun, but it's good. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's I'm here for it. Um, but yeah, it makes the wrong notes even more painful.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see where that goes.
Uh,
But I'm excited to see where they go with it, and I think I know it's getting a lot of praise right now, but hopefully they can tighten it up a little bit, and they got some great characters to run with, and I don't know if that's going to be the case in the next film, and I would like to see more Bruce Wayne. I would like to see more of Robert Pattinson, especially kind of struggling, having his struggles, being that person, and becoming Batman, and what that means to him. So I think that's my expectation, and what I want from the next installment, and hopefully they dive more into those kind of themes in the next installment. But overall, yeah, three out of five. I think that
yeah.
was like a good watch. I'll probably watch it on HBO Max when it comes out in April. I'm kind of curious to hear like what you think about it after another viewing of it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm excited to give it another chance. I don't want to see him struggle, honestly. Like I want fully fledged Bruce Wayne. Like
yeah,
the Christian Bale movies were so full of that struggle and that like, and that's the kind of the only thing I dug about the Affleck Batman was as Bruce Wayne, he knew what he was doing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
he was, I don't know. There was that struggle, but it was something different.
yeah,
I
yeah,
would just like to see a confident, sure of himself Batman, who is also like this idea that Batman's crazy, Batman's a psychopath, like Batman's actually a bad guy, that's not interesting to me. I love the idea that Bruce Wayne is a good person, an affable person, donates to charity, you know, gives back to the community when he's not being Batman, um, and is, if not a good, at least a reliable kind of source for like the Robins and Dick Grayson. I don't find it interesting when he is shut off from them and is a dick to everyone. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Eh,
Yeah, they could
I
do
don't
a
know.
lot with that character, and I feel like it's not gonna happen because he's so young in his career as Batman. He's still trying to figure that out. But who knows? I don't
Yeah.
know how they're gonna set the next film, if it's gonna be a few years after or whatever. But
I hope it is. I hope they do a bit of a time jump because
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I'm sick of Batman Beginning. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Let's just be Batman.
yeah, man. Batman Begins was all about him beginning, but Dark Knight, he was still fresh and whatever. It was, took
Yeah,
place 6 months after the first one, whatever it was. Um, yeah, I'm ready for like full-fledged fucking
full fledged
Batman.
Batman, dude.
Uh,
Yes.
yes, but same, 3 out of 5. Excited to see it again. And yeah, I mean, I haven't stopped thinking about it. And
Oh
is that
yeah,
because
I've
it was a good
watched like
movie or it's because
yeah,
it's a Batman movie? You know what I mean? And I think it's the latter, but
I've watched my round of YouTube discussions and what people thought about it, and I always take that stuff lightly because it's like, well, everyone has their opinion on things, and the
yeah.
consensus is kind of the same, though I feel, and then the comparisons too with the Seven and all that. But yeah, I don't know. I'll definitely when I'll watch it again and check it out, and it is really exciting for Robert Pattinson because I've seen more films with him in it, or seen more films of his, and I want him to go full fledged like Bruce Wayne and like really get into that role, which again was a missed opportunity in the film. So I just feel like give him a little more to play with, man. Because he's
Yeah.
a great actor, and
Yeah.
he could
Yeah.
really solidify that Bruce Wayne and maybe make a very memorable Bruce Wayne for us in the next
Yeah.
Batman installments.
I get what he was doing, and I don't necessarily mind it as long as they give resolution to what that arc was. And maybe it happened when he was carrying the people to safety or whatever, but we didn't see it reflected in the Bruce Wayne character. So my biggest worry about going into a sequel is that he's still mopey emo Bruce and that he
Yeah,
hasn't evolved at all.
yeah.
So yeah,
Dang.
nothing wrong with a bit of a lighter bat,
Yeah, why
you
not?
know.
It doesn't have to be all
It's
emo
been
all the time.
20 years. His parents died 20 fucking years ago, guys. I'm not saying to get over it, but Jesus, you at least develop a sense of humor about some things.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, Shawnee, this was good. This
this
was
was
I've been
good. It's
waiting.
good. It's
I've been waiting
yeah.
to
We
really get into it.
we always like to talk Batman, and we've seen a bunch of the films, and of course, us growing up with the Batman and the animated series, freaking the '89 movie. Yeah, it's. I was just thinking about like my favorite. We did an episode of like favorite toys, I think, at one point, and I was like, man, Batman's always been around in my life, dude. I've always had Batman toys. I had a few Batman shirts at the time. Like, it's just like it was a part of my childhood and upbringing. So it's like it's so. I mean, it's cool that we still have this character that's being portrayed in the movies, and we get to see it like that. So I'm still a Batman fan through and through. But I always come to you for like the comic stuff, and like Batman's one of your favorite characters. And it's kind of crazy through our lifetime now. We've seen like the pretty much all like the movies and portrayals of Batman, and it's nothing new as far as like we're always gonna have a different person play Batman. There's gonna be his rogues gallery of characters, but I really want to see where they can take it, and I think push the Batman character and genre. I think a little bit further. So we're
Yeah.
not, so we're not always talking about the Nolan films and comparing it to that, or, or whatever. So, yeah, give us something fresh. which is always
Yep.
hard to do, I'm sure.
Do Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah,
There you go.
there we go.
Just do that.
Just do that.
Anyway, Sean, is there anything you'd like to share with our dear, sweet, lovely imaginary audience this week?
I talked about it earlier, but Euphoria, check it out. I
Word.
really enjoyed it. Can't wait to finish the second season. Definitely, we'll talk about it. Hopefully, on the next episode with you. I am releasing some music. I finally put the courage up to release some songs that I've been kind of like batching for like the last year or two. So the name I'm going under is called Pillow Fight. Pillow Fight Music, or sorry, at Pillow Fight _ on Instagram.
That's at pillow fight
Fight
underscore music.
On Instagram.
That's a
And
sexy name, Sean.
I literally did one of those name generators, and I was like, that is a cool name. So, but yeah, I'm releasing some kind of like electronic, like house music. That's kind of been the genre I've been diving into for my own kind of music lately. The single's called Love Letter, and it's releasing on March 18th of this month, and it'll be on all streaming platforms. And yeah, check it out. Follow me.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Follow them, bitches. Guys, girls, gals, they, them, everyone. Oh, Marty just farted. Man. He don't like pillow fight music, Sean. I'm sorry. He's not a fan.
Anything to share, Joey, for the show?
Anything to share? No, I can't think of a goddamn thing. I'm reading a book right now called Metropolis, all about the history of like cities and civilization. It's really interesting.
Ooh.
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you the author, but check it out.
There we go. Metropolis.
There you go. Jonathan, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Sean Day Music, on my website, shawneemusic.net. Pillow Fight Music at Pillow Fight Music _ or at Pillow Fight _ music. March 18th. Yeah.
March 18th. That's what's up.
Joey, where can we find you on the internet?
You can check me out at Joey Prati on Instagram and Twitter, and on my website, joeyprati.com. You can check out the show at Top 5 Pod. That's TOPFIVE 5 POD on Instagram, on Twitter, at gmail.com. We're on Apple Music, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Anchor. You can find us on YouTube. You can check us out on Facebook. So please give us a like, give us a listen, give us a follow, give us your love, and we will give you
all the love in return, bats.
All the love in return. Until next time, I'm Joey Pride.
And I'm Sean Day.
Thanks for